he's a one-man band with this movie, writing it, directing it, editing it, being the star, doing all of the commercials and social media for it. And I mean, it's kind of incredible, right?
I'd really love it if you called me Onyx the Fortuitous.
Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.
Absolutely loved Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. It was so much fun from start to finish, and I just have to say that we need more movies like this.
Right. It was super fun. Yeah. And it was a project that Andrew has been working on for at least 5 years. I read a script of his on this, I believe 5 years ago, and I think it was 140 pages. And I said, it's a little long, but maybe if you cut it down, it would be great. And at that time, when I first read it, he didn't ask me to play a part in it. There was a possibility that potentially this company that I work with maybe could have worked on it with him, and that didn't come to fruition, but we were looking at it, and I've always loved that character that he's played, on the internet and going to the Comic-Con and going on the news and all that. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I've done some shorts with him, and he actually had a podcast called Altered States that I was a guest on once. So I think that's the first time I ever met him. And Bria Grant introduced me to him. So I've been a fan of his. And then when he asked me if I would play his mom, I said, oh my God, I'd love to. And, I've loved the project for a long time.
So had you seen the YouTube videos prior to knowing him, or?
I'm not sure when he did the YouTube videos, but I don't know what happened first. I think I met him first, and then I was introduced to the YouTube videos. And I think he was still working at the Nerdist around that time when he was doing all that. Yeah, it sort of happened at the same time.
Well, and I'm curious, so you've always teamed up with people like, Travis Stevens or Joe Lynch, and now, you have Andrew Bowser. And so what is it, what qualities do you look for in a director where you're like, yes, I'm right on board. I want to go with whatever their vision is?
Thank you, Tyler, for pivoting to that, because that's a good question. That's something we can talk about, because I can talk about directors because they're not on strike and they haven't been. I think you look for a director that has a vision, and has a way of really communicating that. So if a director can communicate to you their vision for a project, they're going to be able to communicate it to an audience and be excited about it. And I think that's really true of Andrew. I mean, he's a one-man band with this movie, writing it, directing it, editing it, being the star, doing all of the commercials and social media for it. And I mean, it's kind of incredible, right? So I think you look for people who seem like they're visionaries. And I think Andrew is one. And I do think that certainly Travis Stevens is. So Travis Stevens worked as a producer on a movie that I was in, and then he directed a movie I was in, and he knows every aspect of the business more than anybody I've ever met. I mean, he's worked on, from distribution to being a producer to then being a director. He's worked on 50 movies or more. And Joe Lynch is a connoisseur of movies and movie making, and has his own podcast and really speaks so eloquently and intelligently about all aspects of filmmaking, and, is so damn creative and intuitive. So to work with somebody who has a vision like that is what you want. And I think all those guys have that.
Well, and you've worked in so many different types of films within the genre. And so is there any film that you've always wanted to work in that you haven't, or as
any type of genre?
Yeah, just genre, subgenre in particular, or something you'd like to revisit too. I can't, because I know you've had such a spanning career, so it's even revisiting.
I mean, there's a certain movie that is probably my most famous movie that I've been in that I would love to revisit as a 2.0, maybe, like they did with, recent other big franchise films. And I'd like to work in more comedy, actually. I really would. I've been a part of some movies that have some comedic aspects to it, and Onyx certainly does that.
Mhm.
I would really like to do more comedy because I like to laugh, and I
Yeah.
like people to make me laugh. So
Back to Onyx the Fortuitous, it really does seem to set up for a sequel. And so have you heard any rumblings of it?
oh gosh, no, I haven't. I mean, usually a distributor will see once the movie's released how much money they made on the movie.
Yeah.
If they made enough money on it, they'll want to go for a number two.
Mhm.
So I think we have to wait a little bit, but it's certainly set up for that. I will say about Onyx too. I want to point out I wasn't on set for the puppetry, and the puppetry was like blew me away. I actually saw it the first time at Sundance when it was the world premiere, and it was insane. It was incredible. I mean, you know, for the amount of money they spent on this movie and what they were able to get out of it and put into it, it's really magical. It's a magical little film. And I also didn't really get, I can say this because we have the interim agreement on this movie, but I really wasn't in a scene with Jeffrey Combs, but we did have a little passing thing because Jeffrey plays a dual role and, you know, plays the father of Onyx who left years before. So we had like a little voiceover together. And that was fun. And I actually was the one who talked to Jeffrey on Andrew's behalf to try to get him interested in the movie, which he was. And I think he also is amazing in the film, and just the, you know, his look on screen and his performance. He's one of the best actors out there. And, you know, I'm lucky to call him a friend, and so glad he was a part of the movie too.
And I actually reviewed the film, and so I had to watch it a second time because there was one point where I was like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure they don't share a scene together. So but then I'm like, crap, I can't say this and then not. And then like you guys do share a scene and not notice it, because that's something I think that a lot of people, when they see that you two are both in this movie, they're like, ooh, want that scene with you together.
Yeah, but I mean, Jeffrey has a much more robust part than I do, and I think he's just spectacular.
Yeah.
It's quite a different role for him, and just really proud of the work that he did.
There's still room for a sequel with you guys interacting, because I definitely plead for you to have a bigger role in the sequel.
Okay, yeah, that'd be cool. Well, if anybody can pull off the sequel, it'll be Andrew. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And so do you plan on attending any of the Fathom event screenings yourself?
The funny thing is, I think they were potentially going to have me on October 18th, because on October 19th, I think that's when they're showing the movie at a Fathom event. I have Halloween Horror Night tickets.
Oh, no.
And I booked those with a bunch of friends before they said it was the 19th. And that's the only night my friends can go. So I don't know yet what I'm going to do, but I think there's a screening on the 18th that I'm going to go to potentially.
Nice. Well, I will tell you, even though I had a screener, I got tickets for it because I enjoyed it so much. And I think that this is such a crowd movie that you can just have such fun with an audience.
Yeah. It's, you know, kind of reminded me of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure in a way, just that kind of offbeat, outlandish character that's dropped into this, you know, he's a surreal character, but he's in this sort of almost normal situation, and how does he react in that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the effects. There's very much a Ghostbusters quality to them because it's pretty much practical mixed with like just using computers to like fade the image, which I think is just looks so great. And I'm really hoping that Onyx has a super successful Fathom event on next Thursday, because again, I was a massive fan of it, and I'm really hoping for a sequel.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's great, and kudos to the whole team that put that movie together. You know, even though I was a small part of it, I was so happy to be there with them all, and I think they made a great film.
Oh, hey, what are y'all doing in here?
Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.